Zhang words made Deng Shintong immediately give him a thumbs up. You're truly sharp. Actually, that's exactly what I had in mind. Once we obtain the dragon specimen, we can study it first. After the research concludes, or if we find it has no obvious use, we can still present it to the dragon clan beneath the Qinling mountain. That's the official designation for them at present. Deng Shintong exclaimed excitedly, through years of investigation, we've sensed they harbor no ill will toward humanity. That's why Xinjing has been seeking ways to communicate with them. If we can gain assistance from a more advanced civilization, we might make Huashu Kingdom the world's most powerful nation. Zhang smiled faintly, that's getting a bit far-fetched. Matters so distant are beyond our concern at present. However, if it truly is a dragon specimen, I would be somewhat interested. Deng Shintong spread his hands helplessly. If we acquire the item, we'll naturally share the benefits with you. But right now, they've definitely moved it elsewhere. We've already alerted them. Our next move will be much harder. Zhang leaned back on the sofa, closed his eyes, and pondered for a moment before speaking. That's true. In the past, we could have relied on our overwhelming military might to storm Edo and force the Neon organization to hand over everything we wanted. But the current Neon, even I can't quite see through them. If they've truly allied with other mysterious civilizations, even we must proceed with caution. Not to mention the Columbus Ocean Fleet stationed at Neon Harbor. Zhang glanced at Deng Shintong and suddenly declared, seek aid from other organizations. Give me the strength of one more major district, and this mission is still doable. Preferably the East Sea region, let their formidable naval power tie down Colombia. The Northwest region would work too. Their commander, Li Changgong, complements my abilities perfectly. And in terms of raw killing power alone, his prowess is the strongest I've ever witnessed. Used effectively, he could potentially overcome significant differences in ability index to defeat enemies. Bai Chunyu rested his chin in his hand, frowning. But that would be far too inefficient. Our targets are only the Heart Sutra and the Dragon Specimen. It's not worth mobilizing 2 entire districts. He smiled at Zhang. Seeking your assistance was precisely to infiltrate covertly, ideally retrieving the items without alerting them. Zhang shrugged his hands. Stealth is no longer an option. So what do you plan to do? Abandon the operation? Deng Shintong took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. Absolutely not. Of course not. This was his only current chance to ascend to Epsilon. Even if the odds were slim, the probability of obtaining the dragon specimen far outweighed that of acquiring a portion of the source of God. That's our Huashu Kingdom's national treasure. How could we let it fall into Little Neon's hands? Deng Shintong fixed Zhang with an anxious stare, as if fearing he might change his mind. Zhang, however, sat on the sofa, weighing the pros and cons. Once things are out in the open, they become much harder to handle. Of course, the risk to him personally wasn't particularly high. Even if he couldn't defeat the combined forces of the Royal Demon Court and Columbia Fleet's top-tier mutants, he could easily retreat. There was just one thing that troubled him. What exactly was the 100 Demon Night Parade in Edo? If it truly was a product of that mysterious civilization, just how powerful was that civilization? With insufficient intelligence, Zhang dared not act rashly. It's getting late. Let's rest for today. I'll give this matter serious consideration. But Deng Shintong, you must hurry and gather more intelligence. My primary concern remains the 100 Demon Night Parade and the Columbia Fleet's response. Zhang stated to Deng Shintong. Deng Shintong breathed a huge sigh of relief, at least Zhang hadn't outright refused. Understood. Yang Xia and Zhou Jaime prepared a sumptuous dinner and delivered it to Deng Shintong and the others. After finishing his meal, Zhang summoned Yang Xinxin and Zhou Qir to his room. Seated on the sofa, they began discussing the next steps. What do you think? Should we abandon this? Zhang cut straight to the point. With the situation unclear, I don't think we should risk it. Yang Xinxin sipped her warm milk and asked Zhang with a smile, Brother, what exactly are you worried about? Xangi voiced his concerns. The fleet of Columbia. And the power behind the 100 Demon Knight Parade. Mutants may roam the world, but they are not invincible. Having not engaged with the fleet of Columbia for years, their strength must have grown immensely by now. After all, they were the world's most powerful nation before the apocalypse, leading globally in both military might and technology. If they could create a Cardalis, they could likely produce even more biosoldiers. Zhou slightly furrowed her beautiful brows and murmured, "This nation of neon is truly bizarre. It makes one reluctant to draw near." But bizarre doesn't necessarily mean powerful, you know. Yang Xinxin interjected. "Xinxin, what's your take?" Xangi leaned back on the sofa, turning to look at Yang Xinxin. Yang Xinxin replied, "Brother, Columbia's ocean fleet is still stationed in Neon's harbor, right?" Xangi nodded. "Of course. They've been there continuously since last century." Yang Xinxin, "But what about the strength of that ocean fleet?" Xangi replied, "As Columbia's most powerful fleet, their military might rivals that of an entire province in Huashu Kingdom." Yang Xinxin smiled. "If that's the case, it proves at least one thing." She raised a slender white finger and spoke slowly. "Even if Neon undergoes some extraordinary changes, they still lack the capability to expel the colonizers from their own land. This alone is enough to gauge the true level of the Royal Demon Court's strength." Yang Xinxin's analysis instantly snapped Zhang and Zhou out of their daze, leaving them reeling from the shock of the 100 Demon Knight Parade. It was exactly as Yang Xinxin had described. The seemingly terrifying Edeto had left everyone profoundly shaken. Powerful ghosts, 3 ghost kings each reaching the Epsilon realm, and none could be completely destroyed. Add to that hundreds of thousands of seedlings standing by at night. Anyone trapped in Edeto would feel they'd entered a realm of demons. But setting aside humanity's fear of the unknown, if we purely analyze Edeto's combat strength, is it truly that formidable? Zhang propped his chin with both hands and remarked calmly, "So you're saying Edeto Castle's current strength isn't enough to rival Huashu Kingdom's regional-level forces? At best, they can only hold their own." Yang Xinxin nodded. "As things stand, the outer seas of Neon are still controlled by the Columbus Ocean Fleet. They wouldn't willingly relinquish their territory unless they lacked sufficient strength to secure the seas." Zhang nodded in agreement. "True. If they were truly powerful enough, the mutants of the Royal Demon Court should have intervened against us during tonight's events. It's peculiar. The 100 Demon Knight Parade seems to be a strange force. Even the mutants of the Royal Demon Court avoid them at night. What exactly is the relationship between the 100 Demon Knight Parade and the Royal Demon Court?" Zhang couldn't fathom this. But one thing is certain. The current commotion there has undoubtedly caught the Royal Demon Court's attention. If they join forces with the Ocean Fleet, we'll likely have no chance of returning to Edeto. Moreover, we still don't know the whereabouts of the Heart Sutra or the Dragon Specimen. Zhou gazed at Zhang and asked softly, "So? Are we giving up?" Zhang habitually rubbed the back of his left hand with his right, pondering for a moment before replying, "I dislike fighting unprepared battles. Without sufficient intelligence, I won't act rashly." His gaze shifted toward the guest room. "It all depends on whether the Deng family can offer me more value." Suddenly recalling something, he retrieved the severed head of a seed person from the dimensional space. The head was now a cold, lifeless corpse, its blood completely dried. Without a head, it must be truly dead. Zhang murmured softly. Deng Shintong was staying at Zhang Yi's residence tonight. The guest room, though hastily arranged, offered decent accommodations, certainly no slight to the Deng family heir. Standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows, he watched the snow swirling and drifting outside. His mind felt chaotic, yet the knowledge that Zhang Yi was in the next room brought him a sense of calm. In this world, there was likely no safer place than this. But now, he needed to think carefully about how to handle the current situation. Bai Chunyu stood behind him and whispered, "Captain, from the look on Zhang Yi's face, it seems he intends to withdraw." He shrugged. "He's never been one for risk." seeing no substantial reward, he'll certainly stop helping us. Deng Shintong stood with his hands behind his back, silent for a moment before speaking. But we need him. Across the entire Huashu kingdom, he's the only top-tier combatant we have even a shred of goodwill with. Moreover, across the entire Huashu kingdom, he alone possesses the capability to help us obtain what we desire. Breaking into Neon was simple, but escaping unscathed required Xangi. Bai Chunyu frowned thoughtfully upon hearing this. He's right. We've already stirred the snake from its lair. Neither the Royal Demon Court nor the Columbia Fleet are easy foes. Dealing with one might be manageable, but if they join forces, even with more allies, it'd be a struggle. Plus, what we got was a fake. No one knows where the real thing is. Deng Shintong replied, that's not hard to guess. The exhibit at the Daliandu Museum remains intact, proving the real thing is being carefully preserved. As for who holds it, isn't that obvious? If anyone, it must be the high-ranking officials of the Royal Demon Court. Bai Chunyu looked up. You mean Mount Fudo? Exactly. As long as the artifact remains within Neon, it must be there. Bai Chunyu gave a bitter laugh. That's the Royal Demon Court's stronghold. Are we supposed to storm Mount Fudo and confront Neon's entire elite demonic force head-on? Not to mention the night parade of 100 ghosts, a group whose true nature we can't fathom. They alone are enough to give us headaches. And the Columbus Ocean Fleet, stationed offshore, ever ready to strike. No matter how you look at it, we can't accomplish this goal alone. Unless... He paused for a moment, glancing at Deng Shintong's back before speaking slowly, we report this matter to the higher-ups in Blizzard City and mobilize the entire city's strength. Then unite with other districts to act together. But that would elevate it to a full-scale war. Once started, it would reshape the entire world. One move affects the whole body. Deng Shintong's fists clenched tightly behind his back. With Xangi here, we don't need Blizzard City's help. Neon lacks the Grim Reaper of Love, and we can't be the first to use it either. That would just give other factions an excuse to act. As for the Ocean Fleet, perhaps there are other means to keep them stretched thin. A look of confusion crossed Bai Chunyu's face. Without seeking help from higher-ups or enlisting the East Sea region to distract them, how can we ensure the Ocean Fleet won't spare a thought for Edo Castle? Deng Shintong remained silent, gazing out the window. In the dark night sky, he could almost see the surging ocean. He hadn't truly seen it, but in this coastal city, beneath the ink-black night, the howling north wind and the deathly stillness of the world inevitably evoked images of the boundless abyss of the sea. That's a very dangerous choice. He turned to Bai Chunyu, his gaze resolute yet tinged with a rare madness. But if it must be done, I must be decisive. Mount Fudo, Heavenly Guardian Palace. Late at night, Edo was far from tranquil. Less than half an hour had passed since Zhang Yi and the others departed. The evil demon sat atop the shrine altar, the enshrined deity long since toppled. Within the vast temple, 3 officers stood, reporting tonight's events to the evil demon. Purgatory Star stood foremost, her pitch-black pupils flickering with an eerie glow. Imperial Majesty, we've confirmed the target's identity. It's an Epsilon-class mutant from Huashu Kingdom's Jiangnan region, Chaos. Chaos? The evil demon tilted its head, asking indifferently, is that one strong? The Swordmaster Division Chief, Narumi Shuji, removed the cigarette from his mouth and exhaled a thick plume of white smoke. Extremely powerful, Imperial Majesty. Hearing Narumi's words, the bespectacled man beside him, Wichiro Maeda, pushed his glasses up and looked thoughtful. Are you feeling afraid, Narumi? Narumi Shuji sighed helplessly. Among the mutants, there exists a rigid hierarchy. The gap in power between Delta and Epsilon is like a chasm. Whether it's the capacity for supernatural energy or the sheer intensity of their abilities, they're not even on the same level. I'm afraid only Imperial Majesty could possibly stand against him. The corner of the evil demon's mouth curled up exaggeratedly, as if his entire mouth was about to split open. He leapt down from the shrine altar and landed before the group. It's been quite some time since I last fought. Now then, his gaze swept over the 3 officers before him. In this Edo castle, do you think he stands a chance against me? Purgatory Star lowered her eyes and replied in a respectful tone, absolutely impossible. Early the next morning. After getting up, Xangi was heading to the dining hall for breakfast when he passed Deng Shintong leaning against the wall in the corridor, seemingly waiting for him. Were you waiting for me? Xangi asked. Deng Shintong dropped his arms from around his chest and smiled faintly. Sorry. I didn't sleep a wink all night. After that failure, how could he sleep? Anything new you want to tell me? Xangi walked forward, Deng Shintong following closely behind. The items aren't at the Daliandu Museum, but they must be on Mount Fudo. Both the original Heart Sutra and the Dragon Specimen are crucial to us. That's why I need your help. Xangi didn't even turn his head. I'll give you time to convince me. Without a compelling reason, this plan is on hold for now. Deng Shintong continued, the global arms race has never truly ceased. Over the past decades, it shifted to electronic warfare and space exploration. But with the advent of the Frozen Age, the role of traditional weapons in military forces has been drastically diminished. Now, mutants are the field every nation is racing to cultivate. If we don't grow stronger, other countries will surpass us sooner or later. Our ancestors tasted the pain of isolation centuries ago. Xangi looked at him. So you're saying the value of those 2 items is greater than imagined? Deng Shintong smiled. The notebook containing the insights of one of Huashu Kingdom's 2 sages throughout its 5,000 years. A specimen of the mythical dragon. Do you think that's valuable enough? Xangi smiled faintly, his gaze deepening. He had seen a single page of Wang Shuren's notes, and the knowledge contained within had indeed been immensely beneficial. If he could obtain the complete notes, perhaps he might find a shortcut to enhancing his power. In this world full of uncertainties, only by constantly growing stronger could he ensure the safety of himself and those around him. This is merely a reason to go to Edo, but it's not sufficient. If you want me to act, you'll need to bring greater assistance. Xangi scoffed. Otherwise, you seriously expect me to take on the top-tier mutants of the Ocean Fleet and the Royal Demon Court alone? Deng Shintong seemed to have been waiting for Zhangyi's response. I have a way to prevent the mutants of the Ocean Fleet from intervening. The words left Zhangyi frozen for several seconds as he eyed Deng Shintong suspiciously. You have a way? Looks like I underestimated your Deng family. Your connections are practically on par with the entire East Sea region naval fleet. Zhangyi's words carried a hint of mockery. Deng Shintong shook his head. Of course I don't have that kind of clout. But I understand the principle of besieging Wei to rescue Zhao. Xangi raised an eyebrow, folding his arms. Get to the point. Tell me, what makes you think you can pull this off? The smile on Deng Shintong's face grew broader, though Xangi sensed a hint of madness in his expression. Xangi, do you recall Star Island Mist Valley? Its location, compared to Huashu Kingdom, is actually closer to the Ocean Fleet. The situation there is now perilous. The toxic mist from the island keeps spreading into the ocean. Faced with this dangerous yet treasure-filled mystery, the Ocean Fleet is both greedy and fearful. If we were to do something about it, what do you think the Ocean Fleet would do? Zhangyi's expression instantly sharpened with focus. Star Island Mist Valley had always been one of his deepest concerns. The Sky Dragon King had seemingly fallen into the hands of the valley's creatures, transformed into a monstrosity. His dying warning still haunted Xangi to this day. During the last Mist Valley anomaly, Xangi hadn't participated because he was heading to the southwest region. Both the East Sea region and the Ocean Fleet had sent forces there. The only outcome Xangi knew was that the Azure Dragon had successfully obtained a portion of the Source of God, ascending to become an Epsilon-level mutant. The Ocean Fleet had lost 5 warships but ultimately gained something in return. So you're saying the Star Island incident was deliberately triggered to force the Ocean Fleet into action? Deng Shintong nodded. The closest powers to Mist Valley are the East Sea region and the Ocean Fleet. Smaller neighboring nations lack epsilon-level combat strength, they simply couldn't participate. If we can tie down the ocean fleet's elite forces, we can seize the chance to storm Mount Fudo. Then reclaim our national treasures. After hearing this, Xangi took a deep breath and exhaled forcefully. Do you have any idea how dangerous this is? Xangi fixed Deng Shintong with a piercing stare. Disturbing an underground civilization brings terrifying consequences. You were present during the Qinling Mountain expedition, yet you never truly experienced that level of horror. Deng Shintong, this could unleash immense peril upon humanity above ground. Do you understand? Deng Shintong pondered briefly before lifting his head to stare at Xangi. But even if there is danger, we won't be the first to face it. It will be the nation in the Southeast Sea and the Columbus Ocean Fleet. Isn't that right? He spread his hands, pitting one tiger against another to devour the wolf. It's not a bad plan. Unless Colombia is willing to completely abandon the Southeast Sea and let the Huashu Kingdom occupy that outlet, they'll have to send troops to suppress it. Xangi let out a cold laugh. Deng Shintong, you truly live up to your noble lineage. On the surface, you appear refined and courteous, but when faced with such matters, you're more ruthless than anyone. Deng Shintong replied, the incursion of the mysterious civilization into this world began long ago. I merely accelerated its progress. And doing so helps us achieve our goals. Why not? Xangi stared at Deng Shintong for several seconds. He didn't rush to respond, for this plan was utterly reckless. Even he dared not lightly provoke those mysterious subterranean civilizations. Let's eat first. Xangi turned and walked toward the living room. During breakfast, the atmosphere was unusually harmonious, and Deng Shintong didn't bring up the matter again. He knew Xangi needed time to consider. Around 10 in the morning, Xangi called Deng Shintong to the door. Let's go. I'll show you the people of Tian Hai City. You haven't been here often, so you probably don't know this area well. Xangi drove out his snowmobile and helped Deng Shintong aboard. The vehicle then headed toward the Chaoyu base by the coast. Deng Shintong remarked, indeed, with your protection here now, it must be remarkably peaceful. Peace is only temporary, Xangi said indifferently. I can feel very clearly that this kind of life won't last long. This world is becoming increasingly dangerous. Too many mysterious civilizations are merging with it. Sooner or later, there will be a violent collision between different civilizations. I need sufficient power to protect everything I possess. Xangi brought Deng Shintong to the Chaoyu base. As soon as his vehicle arrived, Lu Dehai was already waiting at the base entrance with his men. Mr. Zhang, welcome to inspect our operations. Lu Dehai beamed with a broad smile. Deng Shintong scanned the group and couldn't help but frown. He sensed no aura of strength emanating from them. At the very least, a well-trained force or mutants who had weathered countless bloody battles should radiate an intimidating fighting spirit. Yet these men looked like a motley crew. Could it be my imagination? Are they all skilled at disguise, just like Xangi? Deng Shintong wondered inwardly. Xangi addressed Lu Dehai, you may go about your business. I'm just bringing my friend here for a look. Lu Dehai was dismissed by Xangi. Xangi then led Deng Shintong on a casual stroll through the Chaoyu base. Everywhere they passed, people were hard at work. Living off the sea, their primary task now was fishing in the ocean to supply the 3 major bases. What do you think of the people in our Tian Hai city? Xangi asked with a smile. Deng Shintong chuckled, they seem quite good. Living in perfect harmony. I'm referring to their strength. Deng Shintong cleared his throat. Forgive my lack of insight, but I haven't noticed. Xangi chuckled. No, they're exactly as you see them. Pitifully weak. Across the entire Tian Hai city, excluding those around me, the number of awakened individuals among these folks is extremely scarce. Those above 5,000 points combined don't even fill one hand. Deng Shintong froze on the spot. The territory of the Jiangnan region's top combat power, yet your subordinates are so weak? Xangi explained, there were some special reasons in the past, so I didn't cultivate them. Back then, he had fought life-and-death battles against the 3 major bases. At that time, Xangi's strength wasn't strong enough, so naturally, he had to guard against them. Deng Shintong now grasped Xangi's meaning. So you want me to help train your subordinates? Xangi addressed Deng Shintong. You can only hammer so many nails with a single iron rod. During the Edo expedition, I could match their Epsilon-tier combatants, but I lacked powerful subordinates. Such conflicts will only multiply. Relying solely on myself will become increasingly unsustainable. Therefore, should your Deng family obtain the dragon specimen and uncover any breakthroughs, you must share the technology with me immediately. Furthermore, I lack specialized personnel for training. Your Deng family must send experts to assist me. Deng Shintong nodded firmly without hesitation. As long as you're willing to help me acquire that artifact, I can certainly agree to this condition. After all, you are a crucial pillar of support for my Deng family. Xangi smiled. By the way, how do you plan to deal with Mist Valley? Firearms would be difficult to deploy, right? If it's something like missiles, other factions would easily detect them. That would cause major trouble. Deng Shintong smiled confidently. Rest assured on that point. Our Deng family is an established clan in Huashu Kingdom. We naturally have the means to handle this. And I guarantee it won't be discovered anytime soon. He gave Xangi a knowing wink. Even if they find out later, what can they do? Mist Valley doesn't belong to any faction. Why should others be barred from exploring it? If something goes wrong along the way, we can just call it an accident. Right? Xangi let his eyelids droop lazily. Do whatever you want. Just make sure this doesn't involve me. He added half-jokingly, I've already offended enough people. The two reached an agreement. Deng Shintong immediately returned to Blizzard City to make the necessary arrangements. Xangi, meanwhile, returned home and summoned Yang Xinxin and others to discuss forming a team of supernatural beings. Even tigers doze off. If Tian Hai City constantly needs me for defense, the pressure would become overwhelming. That's why I need more people to share the burden. Right now, forming this supernatural team seems the best option. Upon hearing this, Fatty Su crossed his arms, his face dripping with disdain. These rotten fish and rotten shrimp of Tian Hai City, is it worth wasting resources on them? Xangi retorted bluntly, rotten fish and rotten shrimp number 1 sure has a clear understanding of himself. Sufatso, huh? He pointed at his own nose, looking left and right. Who's the boss talking about? He can't be talking about me, right? Stop looking around. He's talking about you. Xangi rolled his eyes. Fatty Su looked aggrieved. Boss, I'm at least a 9,000 ability index now, okay? So what? You're still not much use in a fight. Xangi didn't mince words with Fatty Su. Wah! That hurts. Fatty Su wailed loudly. Xangi ignored him completely. Over 10,000 people still live in Tian Hai City today. Every single one of them has endured the baptism of 3 apocalyptic years. They're the elite who survived the culling. Among them are gifted individuals who simply haven't found their awakening catalyst. If we can unlock their potential, we have a strong chance of building an exceptional team of mutants. But, Zhou Kir voiced her concern, such a large number of mutants would require systematic training to become combat ready. With just our current team, we might not have the resources to handle that. Xangi replied, we already have helpers. His gaze shifted to Bai Li Changqing and Wu Di, who sat silently in the corner of the living room. Technically, they were still his team members. Now, riding on Xangi's reputation, they could coast by in Blizzard City, collecting a salary without lifting a finger. But getting something for nothing from Xangi? That wasn't so easy. Bai Li Changqing laughed heartily. Captain, leave it to me. Training mutants is child's play for me. Bai Li Changqing himself was a former member of the Yan Yunwei Special Forces. Back then, he had been an instructor in the unit, with training being his specialty. Xangi said, you're both part of my team. When the time comes, round up the other guys and get them to help me. Yes. Bai Li Changqing declared loudly. Xangi's words carried the weight of a commander's order. And being commanded by the strongest man in the Jiangnan region filled Bai Li Changqing with extraordinary excitement. Not everyone had the chance to work for Xangi. Since that's the case, why don't we just establish a school for mutants? Yang Xinxin suddenly interjected. A school? A spark of novelty lit Zhangyi's eyes. Yang Xinxin continued, if we're cultivating extraordinary individuals into competent warriors, we must develop their overall capabilities. Most crucially, we need to focus on ideological and moral education. I believe this is no less important than combat training. The ideological and moral education Yang Xinxin referred to was naturally not the kind found in textbooks. It was absolute loyalty to Zhang Yi. Otherwise, painstakingly cultivating powerful mutants only to have them turn into ungrateful rebels would be utterly heartbreaking. Is there any way to achieve that? Zhang Yi inquired. Even with Yang Xinxin's abilities, she could only temporarily control humans. Long-term control over large numbers of mutants was impossible. So that path was essentially ruled out. The solution is actually quite simple. Just create a god. Yang Xinxin fixed her gaze on Zhang Yi, her tone gentle, make you, brother, into a god. Have all the mutants in the academies revere you like a deity, even willing to die for you. Zhang Yi's eyes lit up with understanding. Religion? Yang Xinxin replied, you needn't worry about that, brother. You already have an excellent foundation of support. You're currently Tian Hai City's guardian deity, and your prestige throughout the entire Jiangnan region is unmatched. With just a little guidance from us, we can cultivate a group of absolutely loyal followers. There are some people in Tian Hai City who are very skilled at this sort of thing. We can make good use of them. Zhang Yi nodded. All right, let's put this on the agenda. We can start making arrangements immediately. Deng Shintong wouldn't return for several more days, giving Zhang Yi ample time to prepare for establishing the Supernatural Talent Training Academy. The academy's location was chosen at Tianqing College, where Yang Xinxin and Lu Karen had once studied. Though buried under thick snowdrifts, most of the buildings remained intact. After clearing the snow and enlisting laborers for repairs, the site would be ready for use. The initial plan was to screen mutants with supernatural talent, gather them together, provide them with high-quality food to maintain their physical condition, and simultaneously offer them basic training and ideological education courses. Finding training instructors won't be hard. Just send over a couple of members from Bai Li Changqing's Tengu squad, they'd be more than capable. But who could handle the ideological education part? Zhang Yi pondered this, realizing no such figure seemed present in his circle. Yang Xinxin offered a faint smile. Brother, Tian Hai City never lacks talent. In truth, there are many geniuses here, you just haven't uncovered their abilities. So it seems you already have a suitable candidate? Zhang Yi chuckled. Yang Xinxin spoke a name. Ma Wenjing. Zhang Yi recalled the slender, middle-aged man. Once a formidable tycoon who had also served as a teacher, Ma Wenjing possessed exceptional eloquence. When retrieving that group from Rockflow Island, Zhang Yi had already noticed Ma Wenjing's remarkably persuasive speaking skills. Public speaking is a formidable ability. Throughout history, many figures who stirred up waves required exceptional oratory skills to persuade both powerful lords and commoners to support their causes. In ancient Greek city-states, the emergence of early democratic forms made public speaking an indispensable talent for an excellent ruler. Even in the last century, that German man with the mustache who ignited a world war relied on his formidable oratory skills to inspire countless people and establish the Third Reich of Prussia. Zhang Yi's focus remained firmly on Edo, leaving him no spare capacity to handle this matter. He therefore delegated full responsibility to Zhou Qi, with others providing support. After all, the training school for extraordinary individuals was still in its embryonic stage. There was no urgency to invest excessive resources or effort. Several days later, Deng Shintong returned from Blizzard City. Upon seeing Xangi, he gave a slight nod. Xangi understood, the matter had been settled. The moment the Colombian Navy moves, we set out again for Edeto. This time, we strike directly at Mount Fudo. Time waits for no one. Once the Colombian Navy is lured away, they'll inevitably discover the problem soon enough. Xangi must retrieve the Heart Sutra and the dragon specimen before their reinforcements arrive. It was somewhat ironic. 3 years into the apocalypse, Xangi had become a black chariot-level extraordinary being with an ability index of 20,000 points. Globally, he ranked among the elite few possessing peak-tier strength. Anyone targeted by him would likely lose sleep at night. Yet this expedition to Neon was his first proactive offensive operation led by him. Even so, Xangi had meticulously prepared and devised escape plans before committing to the assault. Had the target been any other nation, Xangi might well have declined the mission outright. But when the target was Neon, it was an entirely different matter. Xangi considered himself no extreme nationalist. Yet the prospect of trampling upon Neon's head, of unleashing utter devastation upon them, filled him with profound satisfaction. To paraphrase a famous saying, he wasn't doing this to prove his own greatness. As a citizen of the Huashu Kingdom, he was determined to reclaim what had been lost with his own hands. The humiliation endured must be repaid in kind. Once more, all were ready for action. At dawn on a clear morning, Mist Valley suddenly registered abnormal energy fluctuations. A force rivaling that of a minor reaper of love erupted from the southwest, instantly sweeping out in all directions. The immense shockwave instantly purged the toxic fog across hundreds of miles, while islands already reduced to rubble suffered devastating new blows. This anomalous energy reaction immediately drew the attention of all surrounding factions. Outside the port of East Sea City in the East Sea region, the sea churned violently, rolling wildly to both sides. Warships moored in the harbor swayed like miniature models. A massive, dark blue carapace surfaced, resembling a colossal deep-sea aircraft carrier. The East Sea region's mightiest force, the Black Tortoise, emerged from the water, its 2 eyes, each as large as a small boat, fixed intently on the distant southwestern seas. Is there another disturbance over at Mist Valley? Black Tortoise's form was now significantly larger than during the last Mist Valley operation. After parting ways with Xangi, it had continued growing in its own way. In this perilous world, those who fail to grow stronger will inevitably be eliminated. The mightier the being, the more profoundly it understood this truth. Following Black Tortoise's emergence, 2 figures swiftly approached from the distance. One shimmered in azure, the other in icy blue. Azure Dragon and Vermilion Bird landed on Black Tortoise's back, their gazes equally intense as they watched the shifting seas. Azure Dragon had now officially ascended to Epsilon tier level. Vermilion Bird, though she hadn't obtained the source of the gods, had clearly gained significant strength from their previous mission. Her power was now but a step away from breaking through, it was merely a matter of time. 3 of the 4 spirits have now gathered, leaving the title of the White Tiger vacant. For the time being, no one in the East Sea region is qualified to stand alongside the other 3. The Azure Dragon looked down at the Black Tortoise and asked, "Black Tortoise, have you sensed anything?" Black Tortoise's muffled voice echoed across the sea surface. "A very peculiar energy signature, seems to be some powerful weapon. But the distance is too great, I can't make out much else." Vermilion Bird stood with her arms crossed, her dark crimson combat suit adorned with icy blue patterns, her face as cold and striking as ever. "I've already reported our situation to Commander Lee." "But Black Tortoise, Commander Lee tends to value your opinion. What do you suggest we do next?" She had ventured into the Mist Valley twice, facing grave peril each time. Especially last time, she had nearly perished within its depths. Only after plunging into that immense abyss did she grasp the true mystery and terror of that place. So now she'd learned her lesson, she wouldn't make decisions on her own. Black Tortoise said, "My true form cannot enter the Mist Valley abyss, and with your current strength, re-entering now would be extremely dangerous. After all, the entities within may have been provoked." Azure Dragon frowned. "If that's the case, the Columbus Ocean Fleet will gain the upper hand. Black Tortoise cautioned, better safe than sorry. His gaze was profoundly deep. You've never ventured into the deep sea. You cannot comprehend the truly terrifying entities this world conceals. After ascending to Epsilon, I believed myself the mightiest ruler of this planet's oceans. Yet when I plunged to the ocean floor, I realized my own shallowness. The Mist Valley isn't that simple. Even now, what you've encountered is merely the surface. Black Tortoise was an extremely cautious individual, blessed with extraordinary talent. If even he spoke thus, Azure Dragon and Vermilion Bird naturally respected his judgment. Very well, then. Let's see what those Columbia fellows will do. Those two, Cardalus and Canelo, they're closer to the Mist Valley. Surely they won't just stand by. As Black Tortoise and the others predicted, the ocean fleet naturally wouldn't ignore the changes here. After all, the Mist Valley lay too close to the naval harbor, making its impact on them all the more palpable. Thus, Fleet Commander, 5-star Fleet Admiral Douglas, immediately summoned both Lord of the Ocean, Cardalus and Piercer, Yashin Canelo. They were now the two ace commanders of the Hell's Lock organization. Canelo possessed extraordinary talent. Though a late bloomer, the vast resources poured into him by Columbia had propelled his strength to rival that of Cardalus. The two arrived at the commander's office and met Fleet Admiral Douglas. Pipe clenched between his teeth, Fleet Admiral Douglas addressed them, "Abnormal activity has surfaced again on Star Island. This poses a grave threat to our base. Yet, it could very well be a tremendous opportunity. We need to send someone to lead an investigation, though someone must remain here to command the naval base. This place is far from peaceful. Now we face not only Huashu Kingdom, but also those unrepentant thieves, those neon lunatics constantly clamoring to overthrow their superiors." Cardalus placed his hands on his hips and took a deep breath. Ugh, that damn place again. Damn it. Who knows when those weird underground things will show up? They always hide down in their burrows, and even our cruise missiles can't pinpoint them. Fleet Admiral Douglas took a couple puffs from his pipe, narrowing his eyes. Cardalus, focus. Those underground creatures are tough to deal with. Cardalus scoffed dismissively. All right. Got it, Commander. I'll take the boys down to see what's going on. He spread his hands impatiently. Who asked me to babysit anyway? The mutants weren't invincible. They were merely humans exceptionally powerful in certain areas. But humans remained humans. Even an Epsilon could die from something seemingly absurd. Even Xangi, theoretically, could choke on food and suffocate to death. It wasn't funny, it was a fact. That island was riddled with deadly toxins, and venturing into the abyss could lead to countless complex situations. Thus, critical operations almost always required a team effort. Fleet Admiral Douglas looked at Canelo. As for you, Canelo, you will remain at the naval headquarters. Prevent any unforeseen incidents. Canelo nodded. Yes, Commander. Following the Star Island incident, Xangi immediately led his team of mutant operatives straight for Neon Edo Castle. Opting for a direct assault on Mount Fudo meant departure during daylight hours to avoid confronting the 100 Demon Night Parade. In broad daylight, Edo Castle still bustled with activity. However, the streets were now patrolled by numerous members of the Royal Demon Court. The rooftops of tall buildings were occupied by mutants skilled in surveillance. A mutant with fly-like compound eyes crouched atop the Edo TV tower, surveying most of the city below. As a bearer of the Black Fly ability, he could dynamically track movements across a vast area. Should any incident occur, he would detect it instantly. Since the incident at the de Liangdu Museum that night, Edo Castle had been placed under full martial law, even drawing in elite operatives from other regions. Xangi and his companions appeared in Edo City, each wearing disguises. The disguises weren't particularly difficult to pull off, as hundreds of thousands of people in the city wore plain clothes. On a cold winter day, their thick garments mostly concealed their faces. Therefore, unless Xangi and his group initiated combat, it would be nearly impossible for the Royal Demon Court to notice their presence. Xangi, are we going straight to Mount Fudo? Deng Shintong glanced at Xangi and asked softly. He was already primed for battle, his heartbeat quickening involuntarily. This was the very stronghold of all mutants in the Neon. When the time came, not only would Xangi need to fight, but they would also face mutants vastly outnumbering them. No one could expect an easy time. Before that, there's something I need to verify. Xangi surveyed his surroundings. He had deliberately come here, for he had conducted an experiment in this very place several days prior. Xangi studied the area, then walked toward a pile of ruins. There, he saw a headless corpse. It lay on the ground in an eerie posture, the body shriveled like a deflated balloon. He still died. Meaning these creatures will perish if fatally wounded. But based on what Fatty Sue saw earlier, preserving the body's integrity leaves a chance for revival. It's practically some kind of parasite's nest. Heavenly Guardian Palace. Daytime, yet the interior remained dimly lit. To this day, the shrine maintained the tradition of keeping candlesticks alight. Evil demons sat barefoot on the floor, squatting with wide eyes, absorbed in studying a book. It was an ancient text, written in traditional Huashu characters, a bound volume. The words Heart Sutra were visible on the cover. He chewed on his finger, his large eyes darting from line to line. How astonishing! Did such powerful extraordinary beings exist in ancient Huashu kingdom? This fellow possesses extraordinary talent. So this is how one can comprehend supernatural abilities. Fascinating, utterly fascinating. The Heart Sutra inspired him to grow stronger, revealing how one should truly acquire the power of extraordinary beings. How to continuously grow stronger. At that very moment, a strange distortion rippled through the space in the temple's corner. 3 figures cloaked in black hooded robes materialized there. What brings you here? Evil Demon turned his head, fixing the 3 shadows with a calm gaze as he asked. One shadow spoke, enemies are approaching. You must be cautious. Another shadow added, Edeto is our foundation. Protect it. Let no one destroy it. The third shadow stated, we cannot intervene now. That one seems to have sensed us. Upon hearing this, the expression on the evil demon's face quickly turned joyful. That's absolutely perfect. It's been far too long since I've faced a worthy opponent. Chaos of Huashu Kingdom, is it? Interesting. Speaking, he rummaged through a nearby pile of disorganized books, pulling out a smart device and opening a file within. A blue projection materialized in the air, revealing Zhangyi's face before them. Chaos, Space Ability User. Ability Code, Absolute Defense. Excels at spatial defense, countering physical attacks. Possesses exceptional escape capabilities. The smile on the evil demon's lips deepened. Highly skilled in defense and escape? Ha! This is too amusing. He turned to the 3 shadowy figures. Hey, any way to ensure he can't escape Edeto? One shadow replied, it's simple. To counter a space ability mutant, just seal off the space. The second shadow added, we'll trap him within Edeto. Then we hunt him down. The third shadow added, this is your turf. You're immortal. Time is on our side. Slaughter him to your heart's content. The evil demon lifted his head proudly. Very well. Let us patiently wait for the hunter to take the bait. Xangi led his group beyond Edeto Castle, arriving before the colossal Mount Fudo. The towering peak was an active volcano, now dyed pure white beneath the bitter cold. Xangi gazed at the mountain and said to Deng Shintong and the others beside him, let's begin. Deng Shintong, Liang Yu, and the others nodded. Without hesitation, they sprinted off in opposite directions. As the most formidable combatant, Xangi knew his involvement would inevitably draw the enemy's attention, making concealment impossible. Thus, in this battle, he would stand as the main offensive force, facing the strongest mutant of the royal demon court head-on.